first thing that I want to make very clear with this video is no, you cannot learn a language in 24 hours. Language learning is a long-term process, and anyone who tells you that you can learn it within 24 hours or, some ludicrously short period like that is just lying to you and giving you false hope. And it's honestly just clickbait, because there is no such thing as learning a language that quickly. Hello, my name is Michaela and I teach English as a second language. I'm also studying French myself, and I love all things academic, productive, lifestyle. So if you're into that, subscribe to my channel for more, and also welcome back if you've been here before. So today I want to talk about ways that you can learn a language. Fast in language learning, I feel like, is on a year scale. Like it's gonna at least take a year. I think that's the biggest thing that you have to keep in mind, because otherwise you're going to get discouraged. I want to talk about today what I consider to be foundational parts of learning a language. So that includes comprehension, writing, speech, grammar, and reading. So, everyone has different learning styles and ways that they absorb the material. Just keep that in mind as you go through this, that some methods here might work for you and then others might be completely useless for you. Starting off with comprehension. There are multiple ways that you can boost your listening skills. Like I said, I struggle with this, so especially when I'm learning French. The words just blend together for me, so I really struggle with comprehension and understanding and processing. There are multiple ways that you can kind of tackle this. Listen to a podcast. This is also really helpful because you can do it while doing other things, like riding the subway or doing dishes or taking a shower. You can multitask. Watch news segments. This is good, especially because, news anchors often speak like this, directly to the camera, and they really enunciate. So it can be really helpful for if you're struggling with listening. They're definitely going to speak with more purpose in deliberation, I think, in their language. On the other hand, if you want to practice your slang comprehension, any TV show, and I would especially recommend reality TV shows in your target language, because reality TV, that's just people speaking how they speak. So it's a really good real way to listen. With TV shows, I would recommend leaving the subtitles, or movies, leaving the subtitles on in that language, even if you're not really understanding it. So I made this mistake. I was watching the show Lupin, and I put on English subtitles for the whole thing, and I don't think I really learned much watching that, because I just read it in English at the bottom and I forget to listen to the French. And then also, if you have Netflix as a streaming platform, they have a good search tool in here where you can search for original language shows. If you have Netflix, you've probably seen this before, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Okay, this first tip is something that a student told me a long time ago when I first started teaching ESL. So what you'll do is you find a short text online, like a short news article, maybe a couple pages of a story you like, even one page of a story that you like. Read it in the language that you're studying, and then paraphrase it. Do it sentence by sentence. Read the first sentence, and then now on a separate piece of paper, write down a paraphrased version of that, so that you're practicing using alternative vocabulary, you're practicing alternative sentence structures. It's a really good way to test your comprehension of that reading as well, actually. Write journal entries in your target language, talking about your day and your goals, your dreams, hopes, desires, concerns, questions, all of that good stuff. Write a short story. If you don't like writing short stories in your native language, then you probably wouldn't want to do that in a foreign language. But any daily writing throughout the day that you jot down on paper, if it's something someone says or a grocery list, things that you're writing in your planner, all of that is really good to write in a foreign language. Find a topic that you're interested in, that you want to learn more about anyway. Find some information on that in your native language, and then write like a little mini essay in your foreign language. Pick 3 verbs and conjugate each. This could be a daily exercise. Let's say you pick the verbs testify, knit, and lather. Then you go through and you write sentences for each of those, which is just good to practice writing, but then also with each one, checking all the different tenses. Flip open a physical or online dictionary that's in your target language, and then find 3 new words and make sentences for them. Also, if you're focusing more on colloquial language, search up the top 1,000 most commonly used words in your target language and pick words off that list that you don't know, because this will frequently be used. I guess I should go to grammar next, because it kind of flows from writing. So going to grammar, one thing I'd recommend, this is probably the priciest thing on the list. Try to get a textbook if you can. Textbooks are really expensive though. If you can get like an old textbook off eBay that's in the language you're trying to learn, that can be so helpful because textbooks get into the nitty-gritty of grammar, and being able to read that and highlight it and annotate it can be really helpful. Complete quizzes online. There's so many quizzes online. If you just search insert your language here, grammar quiz, things will come up. Focus on one grammatical point and then write 5 sentences using that grammatical point. As an exercise, return to your old writing and self-correct it. Just go through, see what mistakes you can find. And this is also just really encouraging because it helps you to see how far you've come. Okay, moving on to speech. I think one thing that I mean just like language learners in general. Something that's easy to neglect is pronunciation because we're so focused on the hard parts of language learning, the grammar and vocabulary and comprehension, the really slight nuances of pronunciation. That's not always something that we focus on. And this isn't to say we have to sound native, and that's actually a point I wanted to make during this video. I don't think the goal should ever be to sound native because the point is it's a second language. I am embracing the fact I will never sound like I was born in France because I was not born in France. And I think it would be deluding myself to assume that I could just like fool everyone. It's a great goal to have, like it's a lofty goal, but I don't think that we should saddle ourselves with such a goal because that's just another way to kind of face disappointment. My tongue is not hardwired for French, but nevertheless, I think we should focus on pronunciation, of course. Watch a video like on YouTube, for example. And this is another thing I forgot to mention with watching. Watch YouTube videos because people have a lot of really, really good explanations for language learning. But anyway, on YouTube, you can watch maybe like a vlog in that language, for example, and then after they say a sentence, pause it and repeat back that sentence and try to match it to how they say it. And if you need to rewind, do it again and again and again until you feel like you're really getting that pronunciation down and it's a bit more identical to what the speaker is saying. Then another really good thing is also to record yourself on a weekly basis. I wouldn't recommend listening back to these for a long time until you are definitely improved, but I have some videos of myself speaking French from like my first couple of weeks of learning it. It is actually still embarrassing, so I haven't really gone back and listened to them yet, but it's a really good way to see how you are developing in your language learning. If you can find anyone to do speech practice with, do it. So this can be any family members that you can rope into learning that language with you, any friends, or also if you live in a city, usually there's a language group for a lot of the most commonly learned languages. Definitely join like a language group, and it can be demoralizing if you're just constantly listening to native speakers. So being around people who are also at your level can be a really good idea as well. Language exchange. So there are probably other ways to find these types of groups, but if you go onto Reddit, because I do know this one on Reddit, there's this language exchange. Basically, you make a post and you say what languages you're fluent in that you can help people with, and you say what languages you're trying to learn. And then people can try to find, cohesive matches. So for example, I could find someone who's trying to learn English and they speak native French, we could match, and then just set up like a weekly meeting with them where we help each other to learn, and it's kind of like a dual language learning lesson. Lastly, for speaking, speak slowly. Slow down. When you make mistakes repeatedly, it becomes ingrained. So slowing down to self-correct and self-monitor is not only really helpful for your grammar in your speech, but it's also just really good for being able to identify those areas where you know you're saying something wrong, backing up and then figuring out the proper way to say it. The first thing I would say is set reading goals for yourself, such as, like 1 chapter a day, 1 page a day, 1 book a month. Whatever your goal is, you'll be more likely to meet it if you set it in advance. Read about the culture of places where your language is spoken, and I cannot emphasize this enough. You can't truly learn a language if you don't understand the culture of regions where your language is spoken. There are so many inside jokes, in a way, to a language. Just thinking about English and how many hyperboles and idioms and metaphors are just completely inherent to the language itself, it's often very interwoven with culture and history. So understanding that can be really beneficial for language growth. Read parallel books. When I was learning Spanish back in college, I bought this book and it had the Spanish on the left, the English on the right, which is really helpful for just comparing and contrasting. If I don't understand a sentence, I can really quickly look on the other side of the page without having to actually put it into a translator. Read news articles, kind of like the watching news segments, but just reading news articles. Also get daily subscriptions right into your email inbox. And so this goes for the news. It can actually just be really anything, short stories. If you search like your target language and then email daily subscription, there are so many email subscriptions out there that you can get, and then it'll just like drop into your inbox daily a little article, and it'll remind you, oh, I should read this. Read a book that you know really well in your native language. In that same vein, also Read children's books when you're starting off. Do not be embarrassed by reading a picture book. You know, like, you're starting off at a children's level, so why not read children's books? It's designed for grasping and acquiring language. And I think it's a really good way to kind of get the hang of that. Okay, the bottom line here, though, is immersion. It's about how fully you can immerse yourself into these strategies. That is key. That is why people who move to a place where their language is spoken, they're able to acquire it so much quicker. You know, I mentioned to my students this as well. Don't feel frustrated if you don't notice growth, because it's so hard when you're not immersed in a language and you know, you're not speaking it every day. It's so hard to learn it. You just have to keep at it and immerse yourself as much as you can when you're self-teaching, because that is pivotal to whether you're going to master this language or not. Yeah, okay, the bottom line is immersion, but the bottom line is don't give up. I hope this is helpful and it's inspiring you for new ways that you can develop your language learning. Let me know in the comments if you have any other ideas, but thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your week.